All right, we'll just use this one. Okay, so David, Bruce, and I will introduce ourselves here in a minute. We put together a short presentation on basically using helical piles for EV structure, infrastructure use in different parts of the world for different applications. So that's what we're going to do here today. So that's me. So just been with Hubbell Power Systems now for over a long time. So that's and been involved in some way, shape, or form with foundations, helical foundations and anchors for quite a lot of that time frame. And so this is something that's kind of relatively new with respect to the fact that we are all trying to build more, green, lots more electric vehicles that are going to be coming along either by mandates or just by requirements in different parts of the world. So we thought we'd take advantage of looking at it from the standpoint of how we can use as a new vertical for our products. So I'll let David introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. I think I know most of you actually. Been with Hubbell for 14 years, various positions in multiple corporations. This by far is the most fun because it's neat to see a disruptive technology take off as this has. And so, again, excited about this, and we'll go into it now. Here you go, Gary.
All right, so we'll just cover some topics. We'll show you a brief video that's available that we've put together related to this topic of EV chargers. Go through some of the different methods that are used today for this type of structures, EV structures. We'll talk a little bit about different kinds of foundations that are very similar to use for lighting. David will get into some of the more details and some of the value prop for using the EV. And depending on how much time we have, we'll get into some sustainability aspects of using these types of products. And then we may give you a little bit of history or primer on Hubbell and who we are as a company. So we'll just try to do that first. So if I do this right, this hopefully will work. Let's see.
Every electric vehicle station.
Can you guys hear that?
Tested and trusted for decades as foundations for streetlights, solar panels, and bollards. Chance Instant foundations are now being used to support EV charging infrastructure. The concept is simple. The foundation is screwed into the ground using standard construction equipment, and then the trenched wires are fed through the dual cableways up into the EV charging unit. With no concrete to cure or soil to haul away, you can load the foundation and connect the wires immediately after it is screwed into the ground. No vibrations are caused during installation, so they can be placed in congested areas near existing infrastructure or even inside a parking garage. Available in a variety of sizes, depending on soil conditions and loading requirements, Chance Instant foundations are also available with optional anti-theft and protective bumper options. Give your next EV charging station a solid foundation that's easy to haul and install. Learn more at www.hpsdelivers.com/EV.
Okay, that video does a pretty decent job of giving you the idea. So a little bit more of the details on EV chargers. If you're not that familiar with them, there are different levels of charging devices that are used out there today, and that's changing as we know. There's level 1, then level 2, and then level 3. They come with different terminologies, but basically what we're talking about here for this discussion would be like the level 2 type chargers, and then perhaps in some cases the level 3s. And they have to do basically with the charging load, how long it takes, how much load you're putting on the grid. The level 3 or the much higher charging or faster charging rates, higher voltages. That's your superchargers, those kinds of things for where it can be done in 30 minutes or less, as opposed to taking hours for a charge on a vehicle, say in some other either at night in the garage or in some kind of a parking situation. So we look at them different types of structures. They're relatively small, not a very high profile for relatively small, but not very tall. So your loading's not particularly high on these types of structures when you design foundations for them. And a lot of it comes down to the convenience, what kind of equipment you have, how fast you can get them in the ground, and then the access relating to running power to these foundations is really as much a part of the design as the actual loads are. So today, in this day and age with EV foundations, you'll find the vast majority of them are set on a concrete base, or something, or a sidewalk or something like that. Very common. You just anchor bolt into it, and you have to obviously run power to that prior to pouring those sidewalks or bases. There's also some folks using polymer or precast concrete boxes that they put in the ground, and then you just have to backfill around them, compact, and again, after running power to it. Of course, then the last one on the right is our foundation system, which you're installing with some type of rotary installing machine. Come by our booth and you can play with one if you want to, and so that's the basics behind it. And then the base on the top is where then you would mount your EV charger. Very much similar value prop is what we've seen over the years with using these types of foundations, which look very similar to what would be used for lighting. The only real difference is they're not as large. They don't go as deep often or as large a diameter. Much faster, as most of you know who are familiar with helical systems. And so that's where we often tell folks some of your value prop is the speed of installation. A lot of times you can install the foundations before a lot of the infrastructure is done, in the sense that you may not be set up to run it as an EV charger at that moment, but at some point, in the future, it'll be there ready when you're ready to bring that online. So some of the characteristics, you've seen them, they're pretty basic. Shaft section with the base on top, and then the helical flight at the base to screw it in the ground. That particular type of foundation, what we've learned over time is every single manufacturer of EV chargers does it differently. They have a different base. They have a different bolt circle, bolt pattern, sometimes 4 bolts, sometimes 3, and then sometimes they're offset, things of that nature. So it's very difficult to standardize on any type of base that works. So we have found it simpler just to come up with a blank type of base that once it's in use or needed, you can just drill the holes as you need them to be installed into that foundation. You can use a cover plate until that day occurs. And so we've also come up with some basic shaft diameters and sizes, 4-inch or 6-inch, typically 4 foot, or in some cases a 5 foot depth of a foundation. Again, a lot of times that's a little bit overkill from the foundation design standpoint, but a lot of it comes down to access to be able to run power, have enough room to do that type of thing, and to fit the bases that they put on them. So there's some examples of also you can use bumpers, those yellow elements in front. You can use a helical foundation also for that. And so this slide also shows some features which are very common with lighting foundations or instant foundations as well. So a couple more installs, and we'll switch it over to David, and he'll get you more into some value prop. So just to give you an example of the sequence of installation of an EV foundation, going from left to right, you got the site being prepped. You got your Mini X there that's going to be used to do the installation. Your crew is simply mounting the EV foundation to the tool, simply screwing it in along the location there on the far right pictures. Once the crew has got it ready, they simply align it, use a couple of levels, make sure they're plumb, and then they basically put them along that length of the new building as you see. And so there in the lower left-hand corner is pretty much the finished product for the base. And then they come back, and of course now the crew is pouring the sidewalk after they've run the power conduits up, through the helical foundations. And then the last 2 pictures on the lower right are showing them setting up the chargers themselves ready to go. So it's relatively simple to be done, and it's a much better foundation, we believe, than what you would typically have just using anchor bolts into that sidewalk. So I'm going to turn it over to David, and he'll continue.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, this actually shows just another application, a picture of the application itself of the product. You can see the installation to the far left, and as it advances in the ground. Again, there's an additional plate on this picture. We'll talk about that later. That's to mount the precast collar down there. We'll talk about those. But again, variable bolt circles, so you can mount most any, whether it's electric vehicle or other types of products that go above it. It's meant to be able to cut down the amount of screws you have to use. The precast collar, just really quick, was we found that the issue always was people would say, hey, this is a non-concrete solution, but I'm going out to the site and I have to porous sonotube in order to give the reveal height and have to mount a pole, etc. And that was the reason that we had taken advantage of that and made it a part of our solution. Let's see, Gary. Here's a little bit about the value prop of this foundation. Again, no concrete required. If you do use, again, precast concrete for the actual collar itself, it's quick and easy site installation. Again, very easy to prep. No excavation, which is huge, especially if testing of soils are required. Faster installation, takes weeks really off the overall cycle of installation. Mobilization costs, you can go out, and I've seen it multiple times. You take one trip out, bring the unit out, mount the pole, mount the EV charger, and you're ready to go. Frost heave, if you get in northern areas where you have frost, this is meant to stop that. If anybody knows that, you have a base to most anything that's mounted on it. If it's concrete, it's going to squeeze out of the ground. The helicis stops that from happening. Sandy soils, good for sandy soils. Can be easily adjusted and extracted. So again, that's the beauty of having a screw-in pile. You can pull it, literally reverse it or put it in the ground. The charger remains level. We have people that actually just use it for the top plate because, again, there's not a lot of shimming required. And then made from recycled steel. So 90% recycled steel. Here's another picture of some applications. You can see there's, you've got light poles again, you've got communication towers, 5G, small cells, so those are all really good applications. I believe 60-foot camera poles we've mounted on this exact same foundation. Again, everything depends on the EPA and what the actual pole, was that? Sorry. 60 feet. No? Okay. 20. Oh, no, he's talking EV. I'm saying overall. Sorry, Gary. But I'm just saying overall. But anyways, this is just other applications. Here's a drawing of the EV foundation itself, our mechanical drawing. And then to the right, you can see, again, if it's possible, if the application calls for it, you can also put one of the collars underneath that. It all depends on what the height requirements are. The ADA height requirements will restrict you on that. One other thing is that we do, and Gary, I'm going to try to do this here to get the film going here. Just click on it. No, okay, here we go. So one of the other products we make as part of an accessory for this is that as anti-theft. If anybody knows, in the major metros, there's a lot of copper being stolen from the ground. We've invented this basically to cut off the wires so that bottom line is you don't have to go back in and have to retrench, rewire, etc. That actually saves you from that. So the anti-theft device is good for that. And then to the far right, you can see that we also make ballers. These are good for, like on an EV site, you're going to have transformers. You need to protect those. You're going to have your switch gear. You're going to have the EV itself. Again, you'll see those most everywhere to protect the equipment. So we make those also. Okay, those again. One of the other things working for Hubbell that's again attractive is that we make 60% of the products in EV infrastructure. So this is just an example. Some of those we make transformers, which are found on site. We make boxes, which are used again for connections. All sorts of different types of products, including our foundations, which could be used for lighting and for the EV installations themselves. One of the things we get all the time is corrosion. How does a galvanized unit operate over time? We're lucky enough to be around since. Anybody want to guess how long we've been around as a company, Hubbell? Anybody? I know Brandon knows. No. Technically since 1907, established in 1912. So we've been around for a long time. This was extracted out of the ground after 33 years, and again, the metal remained, the integrity remained. You can see all the information on that, but again, we use this all the time to try, because there's always the corrosion conversation that comes up, or how is this going to survive over time? So again, very good life on the product itself. And green, we talked about sustainability. Some of the key points here is that it's made of recycled steel, and then again, the product's 90% recycled steel. It's reusable, which is another part of the sustainability cycle. End of life, again, this product can be extracted out of the ground and re-put in. That's, again, a great advantage of that. It's a lot of times it can be used in temporary applications and then reinstalled. The contaminated soil, if you run into that in certain areas, again, you're avoiding having to extract the soil or have it tested. And then again, low mobilization, so bring a single truck out to deliver the foundation. I actually have four things. I came up with the four points here, and we'll see if this comes up. But so if you had to remember four things about this particular foundation, it's the 4 R's. It's ready to load, reusable, recyclable, and really cool. So really cool is the fourth one. Don't forget that one. So a little bit about our company is Harvey Hubbell founded the company in 1888, so we've been around for a long time overall, even longer than Chance itself. Many, many patents. He apparently worked with Edison, invented the pull light switch you can see, or the chain pull bulb that's in the basement of a lot of homes itself, and he invented the electrical light plug. So again, we've been around for quite a long time with a lot of legacy behind us. And Chance itself, Albert Bishop Chance really invented the first practical anchor. Does anybody know the year that the first helical was installed? Not the manufacturer people. Steve, you know. All right, there you go. It was 1838. It was the Maplin Sands Lighthouse, the very first helical installation, or they called them screw piles. So again, they were used for years and years. And then basically, I think at the turn of the century began to fade. And then Albert Bishop Chance around this time used it to basically as a solution when the ground was frozen, said, I got to bring up the whole telephone system in Centralia, and that's how the practical anchor began. So again, a long history there. And that's our presentation. So what questions do you have? I know you have lots. Well, it's just booming today. I had an iPad to give away, but I guess we'll have to keep it, Gary. Thank you.